Pan Borneo Highway is a road network in Borneo, cutting through the Malaysian states of Sabah and Sarawak, Brunei and Kalimantan in Indonesia. This collaborative film was shot by a team of local community filmmakers living along or close to Pan Borneo Highway stretches throughout Sabah, to hear the stories where the rubber meets the road. The area of Telupid, in the heart of Sabah, is in the central location of the Pan Borneo Highway. Human-elephant conflict, HEC, is a prevalent issue in Sabah. In 2014, elephants returned to the villages of Kampung Bauto, Kampung Gambaron, Kampung Batu Empat, and Kampung Liningkung in the Telupid region. In response, youth from these villages launched a community elephant ranger team, or CERT, to build human-elephant harmony through listening to both elephants and people and finding practical solutions for sharing the landscape.
Kesan Pan Borneo ini ke atas ekologi dalam hutan simpan itu sangat terjejaslah. Keadaan hidupan di dalam hutan tersebut akan menjadi kucar kacir. Lebuh raya Pan Borneo ini melalui kawasan Tawai, hidupan liar itu akan masuk ke kawasan komuniti ataupun masuk ke kawasan penempatan manusia dan akan mengganggu tanaman-tanaman yang ditanam oleh komuniti.
The following footage are viral videos of human-elephant conflict caught on camera from the community's point of view.
Untuk makluman, gajah kesiangan di belakang rumah Pakcik Majani, belakang rumah Pakcik Majani sekarang live. Inilah dia. Jinak. Ada satu ekor. Makan sampah sudah gajah ni. Makan sampah. Ni ya, gajah ni ya.
An elephant wandering into a school in Telupid around 1:45 a.m. An elephant calf on a highway as it was separated from its herd. Elephants entering various villages. The following was a recording from 23rd of February 2018. A small herd of elephants entered Kampung Gambaron seeking food. The villagers made loud noises by shouting and firing noise cannons to deter the elephants, which in turn caused a stressful situation.
So the planners of the Ranau and Sandakan Main Road Highway, they have made plans of with the highway cutting through Tawai Forest Reserve. But the option that was currently proposed cuts through Tawai Forest Reserve, and we in Coalition 3H see this as a concern because based on the data from our colleagues, we found this Tawai Forest Reserve is an elephant foraging area. Now, so to inform the project, the Coalition 3H members, we did a lot of ground truthing with camera traps, with GPS collaring and all that, so that we know the movement of the elephants. And when we overlay this data along the planned PBH route, we found that they are all over the route. So this is to say that if we are going to build the highway as planned currently, if the plan doesn't change and it goes through Tawai Forest Reserve, there will certainly be accidents. And this is not accidents with a small animal. This is going to be an accident with a big, huge animal. And if you can imagine, we know there are a lot of express buses and lorries flying along. That's going to going to fly along the new route, and very bad accident is going to happen, and this will make headlines across the world.
A male elephant calf died after being hit by a car at Batu Sepuluh off Jalan Kota Tinggi to Mersing. Johor Wildlife and National Parks Department Director Salman Saban said the department received a report on the incident at 7:45 a.m. on Tuesday. A team was deployed to the location and found the carcass on the roadside. Investigations revealed that the car was heading from Kota Tinggi to Mersing when it hit the calf, which was believed to be between 1 to 2 years old. Salman added that Perhilitan conducted a surveillance and found 2 to 3 adult elephants still in the area. He also said the area is a known hotspot for elephant crossing, and this was the third case of an elephant dying from being hit by a vehicle. The carcass will be buried after the department has recorded its morphology.
Big infrastructure can be very disruptive for wildlife. Roads block migration. Animals crossing roads often get killed, and so can people who crash into them. Road planning should avoid places where wildlife naturally migrates. Unfortunately, in Telupit, engineers found the same clever pathway through the steep hills of the Tawai Forest Reserve as the elephants themselves learned long ago.
Sekiranya Pan Borneo dibuat di sini, spesies-spesies hidupan liar yang ada di sini memang terancam, lebih-lebih pada gajah. Sebab gajah dia akan selalu melintas jalan. Kejadian ini banyak sudah berlaku di luar negara, dalam negara kita sendiri. Dan kami memang tidak bersetuju kalau ini tempat ini dibuat Pan Borneo atau laluan 4 hala di sini.
Sekarang saya berada di hutan Simpan Tawai, itu di Jalan Laju Cahaya, yang dimana kawasan di sini memang selalu dilewati gajah. Sekarang di belakang saya sekarang ada laluan gajah yang sering dia selalu pergi sini, sebab mungkin dia keistimewaan di sini adalah ada air bersih, dan ini juga yang dicadangkan oleh komuniti kampung yang dicadangkan untuk laluan Pan Borneo. Mungkin sangat tidak sesuai lah kalau ini dilalu oleh laluan Pan Borneo, sebab banyak spesies yang kami dapat di sini selama saya bekerja project HH Forever Sabah. Kami ada memasang kamera trap di hutan Simpan Tawai. Kami ada dapat spesies beruang madu, tenggiling, burung merak Borneo, harimau dahan, dan orangutan, dan banyak lagi spesies yang kami ada dapat di sini.
Wah, harimau dahan Oh iya.
Satu ekor saja.
Satu ekor saja. Ini yang si anu punya nih kan, si korok.
Kamera si korok.
Kamera si korok.
Dahan. Ya, untuk di sini.
Bukan. Ini nanti bukan.
Spesies dia ini 274. Ini.
Dia itu.
Hi, my name is Dr. Nicola Abram, and I'm a technical coordinator for Forever Sabah. In this next slide, we also have a look at the alternative or potential alternatives for the Telupit area. Now, this area came on our radar because this area is very important for elephants. And as you can see in the map here, all of the green dots that you can see are either collared elephant GPS locations, and the collared elephant data is from Danugerang Field Centre, in addition to data that's being collected by Forever Sabah's CERT team, and the CERT team have been following elephants and identifying evidence of elephants within the area in order to understand the range and patterns of the elephants within this region. So if you see the red route that goes through Tawai Forest Reserve and through 30 kilometers of elephant range is the current Pan Borneo Highway alignment for these work packages. This is a very risky route in terms of the road construction, the Pan Borneo Highway construction workers, because inevitably they would have elephant encounters whilst they're constructing the highway, but also in terms of looking forward to when the highway is constructed. We know that when roads cut through elephant range areas, then there's a great degree of risk for collisions on the road by the road users and the elephants themselves. And also there may be other collisions from other wildlife that are inhabiting this protected area. So what we wanted to really understand, well, if this area is so risky and this route was actually allocated by the government because the communities within this area didn't want the upgrade from the current 2-lane to the 4-lane highway because they would be displaced, then is there another alternative? And our alternative was the yellow route, which you can see, which is Route 4. Now, the yellow route is shorter. The yellow route also bypasses much of the elephant range and much of the elephant hotspots that are frequented often by these elephants. The yellow route also would really skirt around oil palm estates and small holdings, cutting through areas that have marginal land use potential, and so therefore having less impact on communities and certainly less impact on elephants and other wildlife.
Not only did we look at the impact on elephants and other wildlife, we also looked at the social impacts on dwellings along the Pan Borneo Highway.
So another thing that we have concern is the planned route bypasses the Telupi town. So as we know, Telupi town has been thriving for 20 years and more. And if a highway bypasses the town, then again, we fear that there may be a problem with the socio-economic there. So this is something we would like to look into, and we hope the planners will also explore other solutions to prevent the problems.
The social impacts of roads, especially for indigenous peoples, are often poorly quantified. For many people in Sabah, there is a great dependency on land to provide food and income.
Jadi antara aktiviti ekonomi di Kampung Batu Putih ini adalah pertanian, nelayan dan pelancongan lah. Kewujudan Pan Borneo ini ada pro dan kontranya, ada kebaikan dan ada keburukannya juga. Memang memberi manfaat kepada rakyat lah pada keseluruhannya, karena rangkaian jalan raya yang sudah dinaik taraf, jadi dia memang memberi keselesaan kepada penduduk lah. Sebahagian kawasan ini adalah hutan simpan kerajaan, dan itu memang sudah warisan kita menjaga hutan simpan ini, karena hutan simpan ini telah memberikan impak yang besar kepada khususnya masyarakat Mukim Batu Putih dengan wujudnya sektor pelancongan lah di kampung ini. Majoriti penduduk Mukim Batu Putih inilah khususnya bergantung kepada sawit. Kemungkinan pihak Pan Borneo ini, syarikat Pan Borneo akan menggunakan tanah-tanah yang bergerak ini dan menjejaskan penduduk kampung lah, terutama sekali kebun kena musnah. Tempo masa pelaksanaan itu kita jangkakan memang mengambil masa bertahun-tahun. Jalan-jalan utama yang asal ini bagi cadangan saya perlu dibaik pulih lagi. Pasal kalau kita di Sabah ini, kita boleh lihat kemalangan itu bukan akibat daripada kereta sama kereta bertembung, adalah akibat daripada jalan rusak. Jadi ini sudah dialami bertahun-tahun. Semenjak kerajaan dulu-dulu lagi pun memang begitulah, tiada penyelesaian.
Pembinaan Pan Borneo ini akan melalui beberapa hutan simpan akan melalui beberapa kawasan mangrove dan juga beberapa anak sungai. Memang dari aspek environment, ya, tidak dapat dinafikan pembinaan Pan Borneo ini akan memberi kesan lah. Sekiranya Pan Borneo melalui hutan simpan, dia akan memberi kesan kepada habitat terutamanya, akses kepada pemburuan lah, akan memberi peluang kepada pemburu Arab, penebangan hutan secara ilegal, contohnya gajah dan sebagainya. Begitu juga orangutan, ya. Jadi mungkin akan menjejaskan lah. Dari segi ekonominya, ya, kalau laluan lebih mudah dan cepat, kemudahan lebih baik, sudah tentu dia akan meningkatkan perkhidmatan pengangkutan. Pelancong di Sabah ini kita sudah menunggu, ya, satu highway yang dapat memberi kemudahan kepada masyarakat secara keseluruhannya lah. Pembangunan akan dibina, ya. Lebih banyak kawasan akan dibuka dan infrastruktur akan banyak majulah dibuka di seluruh Sabah ini.
Dulu masih kecil lagi emang di sini sudah. Sampailah sekarang 30 tahun. Kita disuruh keluarkan dari rumah ini tanpa ada dibagi pempasan ataupun dan penempatan baru lah. Asal dia panggilan mahkamah kami naiklah. Tapi tiada apa-apa macam bantuan kita dapat lah macam untuk selesaikan kita punya masalah. Pandailah dorong potong lah itu karena tiada notis. Angkat air, tiap-tiap hari angkat air. Anak pulang dari sekolah, tiada dapat rehat buka baju, angkat air lagi untuk stok air kami. Saya punya anak adik sehari itu sampai demam tuh malam. Ketakutan kan gara-gara panas, gelap sampai demam tuh, demam panas. Teriak dia ketakutan, sab gelap. Masa hari itu kes kami viral, ya ada datang lah. Tempo 1 minggu lagi dibagi, lepas itu dirobot. Tiada guna juga 1 minggu kamu bagi kalau tiada juga tempat kamu bagi kami. Tiada guna, biarpun 1 minggu 1 bulan tetap kami di sini juga. Setahu terus terang.
So what were our findings? Well, in terms of potential loss of homes, we estimate within the 50 meter to the 100 meter width scenarios that in the range of 1,700 to 7,000 homes might be lost. This is under compulsory acquisition by the government. In terms of loss of lands, we were able to estimate for native titles in the region of 678 hectares to 1,800 hectares of native titles may be also lost for the Pan Borneo Highway. This will then increase if we look at areas under NCR, but unfortunately we don't have any data on that. In terms of the number of villages that may be impacted either partially or entirely, we can estimate in the region of 65 to 93 villages may be impacted throughout the whole of Sabah. And you can see for the 75 meter width scenario in the map, you can see in orange the houses that would be displaced in order to construct this highway.
Rumah ini macam kami ini macam kira baru jugalah. Jadi terpindah kami di sini pasal itu yang ada projek tu yang Pan Borneo tu. Jadi akurlah pasal mesti mau dirubuh, jadi kita macam rakyat ini tidak juga boleh menghalang bagi projek kerajaan ini. Ceritanya memang ada susah sikit juga lah. Pasal yang kami tahu yang kami ini tidak dibayar. Dikasih kami notis, setiap kasih notis, kasih melekat 14 hari saya itu tempuhnya. Di mana kau mau lari 14 hari? Di situ kau membuka, di situ kau kemas barang 14 hari. Jadi bingung lah. Sebab kami ini tinggal di tanah kerajaan Rodesau. Jadi saya berusaha menulis pemimpin masyarakat kampung, termasuk itu parlimen, pun saya jumpa pasal masalah itu. Keluarlah peruntukan itu. Tapi ada juga yang tidak terbayar. Ramai lagi yang belum berbayar tuh. Kita punya tempat lagi. Jadi macam seolah-olah anda beri kemanusiaan kah? Pasal kami ini didakwa ni.
So we were wondering, well, are there alternative alignments that would actually mitigate or lessen the impact on communities? So we started to look at work packages 23 down to 26 within the Kinabatangan-Sagama area. These are work packages that, to our knowledge, haven't yet been started, and there's no in EIAs for these areas or for these work packages as yet. So what we wanted to do was to identify a potential alternative alignment that would basically bypass many of the people's homes and the villages in order to safeguard those areas. So if you have a look at the map, our alternative alignment is in purple, and the current alignment by the government is in orange. So our alignment would be in the region of 8 kilometers shorter, meaning that it would be cheaper for government. And it would also have a significantly less impact on communities, and we can see this demonstrated within the table. For example, if we take the 75-meter width scenario, the original alignment from the government would take out 832 people's homes. Our alignment, however, would potentially only take out 18 homes, meaning to say that many residents would be able to stay in situ. And in fact, many of the communities that are linear communities that are along the current two-lane road would be able to retain their community and their village, and they wouldn't be displaced.
The Pan Borneo Highway may, however, have wider implications for Padi than just those areas it may replace. This is because road and highway construction may disrupt local hydrology, threatening irrigation systems needed for rice cultivation and creating sedimentation issues that can dry up paddy fields and clog up waterways.
Bersyukur juga lah air hujan membantu kami dalam musim ini. Jadi kami rasa terkilan juga sebab ada tanah sawah kami yang kami tidak terbuat lah sejak pembinaan Pan Borneo. Kalbet yang dibina oleh Pan Borneo bermasalah dan tenggelam. Jadi tanah kami terbiar yang di sebelah yang 70 ekar itu sudah 5 tahun kami tidak bikin sebab dia punya air tidak kering. Baru-baru ini kami yang banjir, tanah-tanah yang diorang bikin benteng itu yang menghalang saliran air itu lambat. Banjir itu menyebabkan kami punya rumah pun kebanjiran, sawah padi kami pun rusak. Isu ini kami bawa juga pergi mana-mana, jadi adalah dalam dua musim dalam 1 tahun kami tidak akan nelayan.
Kalau boleh, jalan-jalan yang sedia ada ini perlu tambah baiklah, ini taraf.
Kalau boleh kita mau supaya pembangunan tu diseimbangkan juga dengan environment ya.
Jadi saya harap dia akan menepatilah apa yang dia orang ucaplah.
Is in the future this kind of project they must well inform and see the need of the people.
Jadi harapan kita sebelum membuat satu proyek harus diteliti di peringkat kampung.
Kalau betul mau juga menaik taraf negeri Sabah nih kan, naik taraf juga lah penduduknya. Jangan cek jalannya, tapi penduduknya, rumah-rumahnya kesian dibuang, dikasih begitu saja, macam yang tidak ada guna.
how did what you just watched land with you? What were the top 3 things that struck you?
You know, the obvious is development versus environmental preservation, displacement, and the only conclusion that you cannot please everybody, for sure. And human being the most dominant species usually will have the last word, and we do.
Definitely, Sabah need a good infrastructure, but again, as mentioned by Marina, we cannot please everybody. In the short, we have to, again, the sustainable pillars, socially, environmentally, economically. So we need to have the balance between these 3 pillars. I think that is for the start of the discussion.
I obviously think that there are a lot of alternatives that we can do to avoid, damages both to people and also to the environment. And sometimes mitigation cannot work in all the area. Sometimes the best mitigation is not to do anything or not to damage the place at first, initially.
I am thinking like, see, we have a situation, we have pristine nature, and then human beings come in. And when we start talking about progress and development, somehow or other, we need to disturb or encroach nature. And then somehow or other, we rationalize what we do seem to bring something better to the world. For example, this big project, it is meant to bring progress, development, and Sabah, and put Sabah into a global arena. But then you can see immediately from the video, nature itself is being disturbed massively. Okay, and then we have people as well, supposedly to help the people. We can see a lot of people are crying rather than voicing their joy that something going to happen and the future is more better and so forth.
As a community, for me personally, we have been impacted by the Pan Borneo Highway because it passed through our kampong, my mom's kampong, and there are a lot of destruction that I can see. There's also a neighboring kampong who tried to provide with the district office, who tried to provide alternative solution. They had a dialogue with the contractors, but in the end, it did not work through. That means it was not accepted. So a lot of the land was destroyed. It's either now because when it rained, the community gets flooded. Of course, it is good for us. We need the highway, but I think it will be good if we can consider the alternative that was provided in the study so that it will lessen the impact.
What is happening with our process that makes invisible people like Normala and many thousands more, that makes them invisible? What has happened? Why are they falling through the cracks? And how do we address that?
My quick thought is always planning. When you're about to develop something major, there must be an absolute diligent way of ensuring there are proper governance. In other words, to look at the various impacts, whether it's economic, environmental, people. As far as I know, all government contracts such as this, number one, they are not allowed to cut anything off or displace anyone without full compensation. That's as far as I know, right? That's supposed to be the governance. That's the policy. That's the first thing. Secondly, I think that the issues surrounding this is also the contractors must take responsibility. If they damage irrigation, drainage, and things like that, that shouldn't be happening, because they should have had EIA report, drainage report, prior to them being allowed to do the job, right?
I think people, especially the process is supposed to be consulting, asking. We call that the free prior informed consent, if there is such thing. But at least, even if there is none, I think there should be some kind of information. That's what my thought for now.
People, they can speak. They can say that I'm not happy with the money that you give me or you don't compensate me. But how about our animals? They cannot say anything. You cannot compensate elephants. You cannot compensate proboscis monkey. So who's going to speak on behalf of these animals and trees? Obviously, we cannot please anyone, but then we have to make sure that we are ready to face the conflicts. You know, if we don't take into account the needs of, and that will cost you more, you know, rather than you avoid the conflict first. I mean, like destructing the habitats of these animals. We have to remember that forests, trees, and animals, they are living things like us. They have their needs. So that one, nothing can compensate them.
There is this growing tendency in our society to believe we have expertise, who knows best what should be done to develop and so forth. And these are the people who should plan for the development of the people. Yet, we also say we would like to be an inclusive society. So I think it's about time that there should be a narrowing of gap between so-called expertise who think they know best what the rakyat needs, and also learn to practice inclusivity, that is bringing the rakyat to say actually what the rakyat really wants as well. And for that reason, I believe strongly NGO, CSO, academicians should voice out to give voice not only to the people but also to the animals, as Dr. Farina said.
I'm not sure whether the consultation process, as mentioned by Marina, is not well delivered. I'm not sure. But sometimes, based on our experience in forestry department, the first call for the consultation normally is 0 attendance. But if they are not well compensated, I think it is unfair as well for them.
How can we propose routes that meet transport objectives, that meet development objectives, without the human and the other creatures and the environmental consequences, whether it's watersheds or carbon? What is the avenue?
Speaking to JKR, I spoke to JKR, who is in charge of the Pan Borneo Highway, not to the Pengarah, but Samsul, just a couple of days ago. He said, look, the reason why originally they routed it to the forest reserve was because there was 500 people along the Talupit area who were against the Pan Borneo Highway being expanded there. So that's why they went through the forest reserve. But I totally agree with you. It's unbelievable that you would even consider that. But talking about the route, I think with anything, if you know, our job as normal citizens or lobbyists or NGOs, we are not fighting against the government. It's a discussion. It's a collaboration. Of course, we need to improve our communication. Of course, we need to improve connectivity. I think we need engagement with the government, and it's good that that particular route has still time.
It seems displacement is understood just to compensate people some money for the land and maybe for the house. But actually, to me, displacement means more than that. People have settled. In a way, they're empowered. They are surviving. But when we put a development that displaces them, I think just merely compensating for the land and the house is insufficient. You actually destroy an ecosystem. And to create another one for this person or this community, I feel is difficult. I think this is where we need to be very inclusive in the way we look at our laws as well.
I think it is even further because Dr. Farina also talked about animals and the nature. And especially for us, indigenous community, we also have this relationship. So when it's destroyed, we really feel disconnected. And it's not just, it's really true, it's not just about the house, it's not just about the land, but it's like the whole thing, because we are connected. And I feel all those things, because we are in Borneo, we need to look at that also, I feel. Lah, itu sebagai orang asal.
So just to throw something else in the mix, we often hear from government agencies involved in infrastructure development that Sabah deserves to get back from the federal government the funds that is rightfully hers. And the best way for this is for large and costly infrastructure. Is this a general sentiment? And if so, how do we grapple with it so it doesn't distort or damage our future?
Okay, I cannot answer on behalf of JKR, but probably we can share this, what they call the motion. As we understand that in the development project or even the RMK lah kan, rancangan Malaysian plan, normally the what do you call the progress of the project will be evaluated not only based on the physical but also the expenditure. For example, for the 2021 up to almost reaching to the what do you call first half of the year, our expenditure, for example, only 30%, less than 30% because of the COVID, because of the pandemic, because of SOP, we cannot what do you call implement what has been planned before. So again, the funders, I mean from the federal, sometimes, okay, if you don't spend well, we will take back. This is another issue, right? So I think JKR also having that sentiment as well, that if they fail to spend that is allocated, for example, 1 billion, 2 billion to Sabah this year, it will jeopardize the what do you call the performance for next year. It will jeopardize the allocation for next year because of this year we cannot spend that amount that has been allocated.
If we have the money, okay, fine. If we need to do development, fine. But why can't we do it in the right way? Why everything has to go so quickly that they don't even look at the EIA? They don't really, ask all the consult all the stakeholders, like do it properly, although it will take maybe, I understand that government allocation maybe have a deadline, like when Indra said, maybe 1 year or 5 years, but you do it properly so that everyone can benefit from it. And we have to involve more young people. When you involve more young people, then they will come up with, different alternative.
If it is allocated to Sabah, I mean, as a civil society and a citizen of Sabah, why is it that they have to take it back? So I think that suggestion, the first suggestion, our politician must push. They must voice that out, and then it can be kept in Sabah. After all, it's rightly our money. So then the pace can be done. We can pace the development.
I think revolving around the accountability and the funding, I think that they certainly, if there are two things here. They have the allocation, they've got the budget to build the road, right? So they are obviously, in your alignment, there's shorter route by 8 kilometers. So if it costs 8 million to do a bridge extra or something like that, obviously, and then they are also perhaps, there are palm oil companies there, right? Oil palm companies there. The government could say to them, okay, bridge donated by you fantastic palm oil people, because it's going to benefit them. And secondly, if leadership says contractors needs to be accountable, and if you do any damage on any road that you build, you have to take it off your insurance. But yeah, I think there's a possibility definitely to open the channel, not just with the government, JKR, but also with the contractors.
There must be the heart, caring, inclusiveness involved. Then only accountability will become part of our culture. I think this is something we need to keep educating our people when they take up to do anything.
How can the space be more open and inclusive earlier in the policy and macro design process?
Like a Sabah structural plan, if we recall from yesterday video clip mentioned by our colleague. So even though it's about 20 years plan, but somehow when it was planned much earlier, whether it's still valid or not when we come to the real time, this is another issue that we need to look into and come to the openness whether we can have this occasion and not a bit subjective when come to the infrastructure project.
Maybe we should pass a law saying when you want to have a master plan, first it should be made illegal to implement it until everyone is consulted and we have a proper hearing. Then inclusivity becomes a reality, see? Because it starts with a very strong law.
All your master plan goes through every department. There may be 16 departments, and every department has a right to comment on your master plan. Then, even after that, before it goes into a state level to look at it, into the state planning, they have to have a public consultation, and then you have to advertise it. Okay, see any objection whatsoever. It is actually already in the law.
I have a little bit of a summary here. It's non-exhaustive. Firstly, we can't please everyone, but we can do a lot better. And there are practical alternatives that are significantly less negative for people and for nature. For example, the impact on elephants of Tawai Forest Reserve route would be catastrophic without modifications, and the scale of displacement along the PBH is unnecessary. Infrastructure development will be done better if it is less top-down and we are able to gather the voices of the stakeholders, of civil society, and of youth. Public consultation in master planning and project design is not easy, but it is essential. Contractors must also take responsibility and be held to account for the impact of any delivery failures. They undertake technical studies to avoid these and hold insurance for these purposes. The approach to compensation that sees displacement only as a material issue to be resolved without money is much too limiting. Human well-being is linked to place, memory, and a whole social and ecological ecosystem that which are destroyed by displacement in ways that money cannot solve. This is especially true for indigenous communities. Sabah needs to press for changes in how it receives its federal financial allocations so that they can be used according to the priorities and timetable of Sabah for projects of a wider range of sizes and purposes. Overall, we need greater imagination and flexibility in approaching what kinds of infrastructure development actually needs doing in Sabah.